Lisa, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So good to have you here. I always call you the Lisa Little. Uh, People know you because you're such a, supporter of the industry. You do so many amazing things to support the MPA and other members by answering questions. But we'll get to that at some point. First and foremost, tell us name of your shop, where it's located.
Okay, so I'm in Conyers, Georgia, and the name of my shop is Fieldstone Jewelry and Pawn, and I've been there since 1987.
So, how did you get into the pawn business?
Well, I was in college, and when I got out, I majored in business at University of Georgia, actually management information systems. So I was a computer geek, and so got out of school and did a couple other things. Did some sold real estate, sold insurance, and right in the beginning of the cellular market, I sold cellular, and then I kind of saw the writing on the wall with the cellular thing as my commission started going down because it became more popular. The prices went down, so my commission went down. Anyway, ended up my dad was in the boat business, and he said, "Hey, I want you to look at this thing." He was selling his shop, he was, selling his business, and I want you to look at this idea. And he'd apparently always wanted to be a pawnbroker. I had no idea of this, and quite frankly, it's probably good that I didn't know that there were pawn shops when I was in college because I might not have owned anything after that. So it's good that I didn't know, but I looked at it and went, this kind of feels like a no lose. I think maybe I'd be interested in that. And so that's how we did it. Obviously, all his money, I had none. And mainly his know how because he'd been an entrepreneur for his whole life and a successful one. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I got my education right there. We jumped in with both feet, knowing nothing about it.
Wow, incredible. And Fieldstone, you guys take in everything? Do you guys do jewelry, hard goods, firearms?
We do everything.
Awesome.
Yeah, we take our we kind of we specialize more in jewelry. That's definitely our biggest seller and our our highest dollar items are our biggest thing. But we take everything. We take tools. I'll take if I think that I can make some money on it and you need the
You're
money on it, I'll take it.
you're a good pawnbroker.
I hope
So
so.
you started the business with your dad. Obviously, I know that you have a lot of respect for your father from the posts on Facebook, and my father taught me the business as well. Did you guys work side by side? Was it more like he mentored you and you ran the shop at first? What did that look like?
Well, at the very beginning, obviously, I was pretty green. I was young. And so, no, he was definitely there from the very beginning. I did start at the very beginning, though. Like, I distinctly remember going and like picking out showcases with him. So, like, we went to Atlanta and a lady was, her husband had died and she's closing out her sewing shop. So we went and we bought all of her fixtures, everything. And I'd never opened a store. He'd done that many times, but that was the first time I'd ever done that. So, uh, I would say for you guys out there that have kids that are young kids that are just coming into the industry, even I was in my early 20s, so do some of those things that don't seem very interesting, take them along because I remember him negotiating that with her. Like I remember that whole scenario, and I don't remember a lot more about that. But I guess because it was an interaction with somebody and it was something I'd never seen before, I was like, wow, that was interesting.
Love it. And so he kind of like brought you under his wing. You saw all that type of stuff. You guys became pawnbrokers together, essentially.
Together, right? We lost a lot of money.
I'm sure,
Yeah, that's we took a
as we
lot of
all do.
stuff we shouldn't have taken, and we had bigger hearts than we should have had, and yeah, we learned it the hard way.
When was it that you were kind of given the reins to run the store yourself?
So, my dad actually had cancer several times, and as he got older, I think he just realized that we had other ventures as well, which I mean, most pawnbrokers do, I think, and we had other businesses as well, and so I had been um, we had multiple stores and we decided to sell everything but the flagship store to we had partners in those other stores and sell those off to the other partners because they had children my age, well, young adults at that point, my age too. So we ended up with just like the other businesses, the property and stuff, and then the flagship store that I still have right now. And I'm gonna say about 15 years ago. Well, let's see, he's been gone since 13. That time flies, doesn't it? You know, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
uh, 15 or maybe 17 years ago.
Gotcha. And so that's when you went from multiple stores to one store. How big is the store and how big is the team currently?
The store is, well, we have inside 5,000 square feet, and then we have another building in the back that's got another couple thousand. And we have then a large open lot. I'm very fortunate that I've got just, land so that I can take in big stuff. I have 6 people on our team right now. Only 3 are full time, and then me.
Gotcha. Love it. What was the hardest part when you transitioned to like just you running the business? What was the hardest part about that transition from working together with your father to kind of going alone at it and just running a pawn shop at that time?
Wow. There were a lot of hard parts. And, quite frankly, I've talked to you about this before, but, and I think a lot of people that grow up in this business kind of have a little bit of a imposter syndrome going, even though we've been doing this like me for 33, 34 years. I still think I'm kind of, just kind of get pulling one over on everybody, like I don't really know what I'm doing here. And, but the hardest part was realizing that, all those decisions stopped with me. So if we had a bad year, it was my fault. If we didn't have enough inventory, it was my fault. If we, these are things that, yes, maybe different people on the team are in charge of them, but let's be real. If I'm not watching that, it's my fault.
Yeah.
So, and before I could go, well, Dad did that. Dad made that decision. Dad said that. Dad hired that person. But at some point you can't say that anymore.
Yeah. It's the buck stops at you, right? The
Right.
extreme ownership. When was it also, Lisa, at some point, and you've been a pawnbroker for 30 plus years, when was it that you started getting involved with, associations, organizations, and other pawnbrokers? Did it come in early? Was it later? When did that happen?
Actually, much later. So my dad had been involved with the Georgia Association kind of right at the very beginning of that, when they what happened, they had tried to get ahead of the legislation. So they decided, listen, we don't have a pawn law in Georgia. I think we need to go ahead and see if we can sit down with some people and write our own pawn law. So it's something that we can stomach, And so that's what they did. And once again, that's something I've always remembered. But I didn't get involved with anything then. And, obviously I was younger, I had my own interests, had other things going on, and I just didn't really see the need to do it. But as I've gotten older and I'm looking at things, especially now, about, I guess, 5 or 6 years ago, I thought, well, really, actually, I think when my dad passed away, that's probably when I started thinking about it again and thinking, I need some peers in this, because he'd been my peer, right? Dad had been my peer in it. And he was the one that I could bounce stuff off of, and he'd give me a straight answer, and he'd be honest with me, and he'd have ideas, and he had kind of his lane he went in, and I had my lane, but I could still always bounce stuff off of him. So when I didn't have that anymore, I really felt it, really felt it. And then I started thinking about the fact that this organization has been here all these years, and I have done absolutely nothing for it. And I saw people, working really hard for the industry, and I knew that I'd done nothing. And I've gained my family. I mean, obviously, I put my kids through college in this business. I've had employees that we've been able to employ all these years, and their families.
Yeah.
So I thought something. I want to help save this and make this better. And that really is how it happened. I just kind of looked around and went, wow, these people are working, and I'm doing nothing.
We'll talk about kind of, how you're revamping the Georgia Association and starting it. It's already started and it's rolling, which is amazing. We'll talk about your leadership in that. One thing before that is talking about dads. I want to publicly thank you. When my father passed away, you always sent me messages and prayers. And so thank you so much for that. It meant the world to me because he's the one that taught me how to be a pawnbroker, a good human being, a good man, all those types of things. Right. Watching what he did and he didn't do, right things and wrong things, right? Like right. we learn from that. So with that said, you grew the pawn shop, you took it over by yourself kind of like 15 years ago. And you started also helping associations out and really thinking to yourself, like, I've got to put my hand in making a difference, right? As you're growing your pawn shop and things are going great, what happened in the last couple of years where, the pandemic hit, COVID hit? How did you change? How did your business change? Because you still kept on supporting, answering, you still kept on being Lisa Little. When a lot of people stuck their head in the sand, they're like, I don't have time, I'm figuring this thing out. You were still figuring it out and you were still being you. So what did you do in your business to make that happen?
Well, I think part of it is, and I've said this before, but I watch a lot of world news, so I feel like I was a little ahead of the eight ball maybe on this, where I saw things on happening in Italy and happening in Great Britain, and knew people there, and was listening to their stories, and I thought this is going to come here. And so I started really early, gathering supplies and just kind of kicking around in my head. What is we use that term pivot all the time. Yeah. What's the pivot? Is this a short-term pivot, a long-term pivot? And just kind of made some notes about things that I thought that we could do. And when these supplies started coming in, even my employees were making fun of me and laughing at me, saying, it's too big a deal. It's not going to be a big deal. You're making a big deal about nothing. And I heard them kind of, in the background, but I thought, I'm okay. Maybe I am, but listen, if I'm not, we'll be in good shape here. So I just thought I was willing to put ideas out there, good, bad, or ugly. I mean, nobody knew the answer to this thing, right? None of us knew the answer. None of us have been through anything like this before. And so why is my idea any worse than anybody else's? It's kind of what I thought. I thought if somebody, you can be sure that if you put an idea out there on the boards and somebody didn't like it, they are going to let you know why it's bad. So,
but I love that because it kind of shows your entrepreneurial spirit that your father taught you, right? And Beth asked a question: how is it that you can run such an incredible business with a great team and still have other endeavors? Right?
I think it's funny that Beth is the one asking that. I mean, like, of all the people that would ask that question.
Opening up a store like every week or so.
Right, every 3 weeks she opens a store. I don't know.
So how do you do it? How do you keep, the team engaged? How, through the pandemic, how do you keep them engaged through you going off and doing other endeavors? I don't even know what those endeavors are, but you have this entrepreneurial spirit in you that I can feel, hear, and see. What is it that you impart and give to your team for them to support you throughout this whole thing?
Well, I haven't always been the greatest at that. I'm just going to come clean. And I have learned a lot from you and many others, and my dad particularly, about how to do that. And I think I really had to get my sea legs right there after he passed away. And I didn't do the best I should there. But one good thing is as you said, we've got team members that have been there for many, many years, and it's their career. And when they came in, I said, that's one of those things I like to know. Is this a job for you, or do you think this might be a career for you, or do you not know quite yet? Because, I want people that are looking for a career. And so, and it's not for everybody. And we have had people come and go over the years, but recently, the last few years, we just haven't. So what I feel like I should have done a long time ago, and what I finally did, was said, what, these people have been here a long time and they know how to do their jobs. Let them do it. So it's not that I'm a micromanager exactly, but I can have a tendency to do that. And I definitely have a habit of, and when they listen to this, they're going to laugh because they're going to be like, yeah. When I walk into the place, like, I'll see things and I'll be like, oh, and if I haven't been there in a few days, and then I go in and I look, I'll be like, oh man, that needs to be over there, and why is that shelf empty? And I think I have a tendency even now to go in and just kind of blah, tell them everything that I want them to do. Where my dad used to do is come in and go, hey, everybody, how's everybody doing? Is everybody smiling today? And, so I'm working on that. Yeah. But I do think I've gotten better at it. But I wish I'd let go a long time ago. That if I could give anybody advice on that, when you've got good people that are doing what they need to do, it's not that you can't direct them. They're very, usually your best people are the people that take direction the best, right? So direct them when you need to, but kind of just let them work, because they're good and they're smart. They know what they're doing.
I love that. I think that a lot of pawnbrokers are micromanagers. I say this all the time. And I think it's because we might have this feeling that we've been trained and we know so much. And so, they might not know it the best. And so I'm going to lose $5, $50, $500. But when you show trust in your team like you have, they start showing you that they can get the job done.
That's 100% true.
Right?
Right.
Love it. So for those of you listening who are micromanagers, listen to Lisa. Forget listening to me. Listen to Lisa when she says, I wish I would have done this before. And it's giving you a type of freedom, right? Like you're still a business owner, entrepreneur. You've got to be there, hold people accountable, but it's giving you freedom to be able to, do your other ventures, help the industry, be with your family, right? I see you posting pictures of, you with your family out having fun, enjoying, and that's what this is about. It's not just about sitting at the pawn shop behind the counter all day, every day, 7 days a week.
Right. And, I love being there. I do love being there, but now when I go in, I can tell they're like, we missed you and now we've seen you and it's time for you to leave.
We've had enough, Lisa, for the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your input and
take off.
Yeah.
Love that. But I think that's what leadership is. Like, that's great leadership when your team can say, we've got this, you go do what you need to do, and I'm sure that, yeah. And I think that when there's a big issue, then they trust in calling you and saying, hey, we've got this big issue. Let's figure this thing out together.
Right. And I think if anybody that's listening to this, think about how it is when you're not there. If you don't get as many phone calls, you might get some, but you don't get a lot. But if you're sitting at your desk, how many times do they bring you something? That's kind of was the light bulb in my head. I took I took a vacation and I got stuck in Italy. Okay. I got stuck in Italy. My mom got sick, had to have an operation there. I mean, it's worst places to get stuck. I get it. But, we wanted to come home. So while I was there, I thought, things are going fine. It's not a problem. Things are going fine. And they called me maybe twice in 3 weeks. Wow. But if I'd been sitting at my desk, what would have happened? How many times would they have brought me something, asked me a question, try to get me to make this decision, whatever? So I think it actually helped them too, to feel more confident in what they were doing. So
you essentially become the crutch.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're always there, always answering all the questions, you don't give them the freedom and the trust to make those decisions on their own. And then you become the crutch. Then you always have to be there.
That's right. Absolutely right.
I love that. I'm going to jump into some questions, Lisa, from the community, if that's okay with you. Sure. Marie says she's a great pawnbroker. I can see that she has passion for industry. What brought her into the industry? We spoke about that. And what about being a pawnbroker keeps her part of this wonderful and unique industry? So why do you keep doing, and why are you still a pawnbroker?
I've been asking myself that same question. Like, what is it that makes me go, I want to stay and continue to do this. And I think that we've made a lot of change. Well, okay. First of all, number one, I'm going to tell you that it is the employees, because as I said, they have given, this is a career for them. Okay. They've chosen this as a career. And I feel a great responsibility to them and their families, because they've said, hey, this is what we want to do for a living. And yes, I know they can go work for somewhere else or for someone else in this industry if they want to, but they've gelled into such a good team that I hate to break that up. And that may not be the best excuse or answer for that, but it definitely does play a part in my thinking. Also, I love some of the things that we're able to do for the community now, and having that opportunity to try to flip this image problem that pawn has. So for just quick example, you've seen, I know like Brian Garrett and some other people have put up, food boxes outside, blessing boxes outside of their shops. So I did that too. I'm not taking, credit for that somebody else thought of that, but we've had an amazing response to that. And ours is huge. It's like a big armoire. Wow. And people come out and they use that thing every single day. We see people out there, eating out of it on the side of the road, like popping the top right there. So, there's people living out in the woods, out there, places you don't even know that people are living. You have no idea that are using this box. So, and I'm in the suburbs. It's not like I'm sitting like right next to Atlanta. So that should give everybody pause that there are people hurting everywhere. And, if one small thing you can do is very important to them.
Love it.
So yeah, I like being able to do that. And once again, if I close down my pawn shop, I can't be a part of the pawn community anymore. Why would I ever do that?
I think you're like, for lack of a better term, grandfathered in as a pawnbroker for life. You like jumped into the
Okay.
gang. I don't think you can get out anywhere. Even if you were to sell, close down, give it away, doesn't matter. So
That's it.
that's it. You're here. Love it. Jimmy asks, and this is going to be a great segue to, the Georgia Association and what you do there and why you decided to lead that charge. Is there a different way that vendors can help promote and be of assistance to the industry? She's so busy doing different things that sometimes you forget to ask us a simple thing at times that we can help.
Yeah, so industry partners are a really important part of our of what goes on at NPA, what goes on at GPA, any organization like this. And obviously it's important for them because a lot of them have a huge client base or customer base in the pawn industry, and so it's in their best interest to support the industry. But as pawnbrokers, and you'll see me say this sometimes. I open my mouth too much on the boards, I think, but you'll see me say this whenever I see somebody saying, "Hey, who's the best for this?" I'll go say, "Oh, we have a trusted NPA partner, blah blah blah, that sells that or whatever," because I want pawnbrokers to start thinking that way. These partners have put their money where their mouth is. And if they come to Expo, I'm telling you, that's not a small amount of money. If they come to any of these regional shows, it's not a small amount of money. They have travel for themselves and all of their employees. They have to have booth space. There are other additional expenses. Plus, they got to feed all those people. They got the hotels. I mean, just like you do. Yeah. And hopefully they're going to get sales. So if you don't think of them first, that you're doing them a disservice. And their livelihood, once again, it depends on it just like ours does. But as far as them doing for us, I think my problem is that I always feel like they already are doing so much for us by, advertising and doing all of these things and supporting our industry that way that I hate to ask too much. So I usually will ask for some swag or some, some little thing like that.
I think the best thing for Jimmy, just in my opinion, Lisa, that was great what you said. It's just when you come across a pawnbroker, just ask, "Hey, are you part of an association?"
Yeah, that actually is very good. We have several of our bigger, I keep wanting to call them vendors, but I know they're industry partners. Several of them, that do that with every box. I know that they send out. They'll send send something saying, "Hey, are you a member of the NPA?" I know that I've seen. I don't want to call any particular ones out because then I feel like I've got to call all of them out.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. And so, but I know one that it's very prominent. You go to their website, boom, there it is. Yeah. And that is probably the thing. It doesn't cost them very much, but it's so good to have, their client base. Obviously, we don't like to share our lists, right? I mean, that's something that we've worked at over time, developing and spent money developing. So because we don't ask them to share their list, what they can do, though, is share to their own lists. And that's probably the best thing I could think of. You're right.
Love it. Awesome. Great question, by the way, from Jimmy. Let's talk about leadership, Lisa. You restarted the Georgia Pawnbrokers Association. Right. You have so much time, right? What made you say, "I'm going to take the lead"? Because there's a lot of states who don't have associations, a lot of states where the associations are crumbling or have just been ignored for a long time. And you've said, like, I own a pawn shop, I own different businesses, but I'm still going to lead this charge. Why?
Well, for the very reason that I think every state needs to have an association. And, it's hard for me to tell people, I'm on the board of directors of the NPA. It's hard for me to say as a member of that organization, "Hey, you need a state organization," if I don't have one in my own state. And so we had what happened in Georgia is several years ago, we had a gentleman who had been pretty much a one man band here. And he had run it and then he passed away. And after and really, he just kind of kept an eye on legislative things, but there wasn't really an active association going on. There wasn't a lot going on with it. So after he passed away, we had a meeting, and this is something that Ben Levinson spearheaded. And Ben is obviously he's former NPA president. He knows the importance of it. But Ben, once again, he's like everyone else. He's got lots and lots of irons in the fire, and he's done a lot of service already for the industry. So we had this meeting, and we decided at that time that we weren't going to form a formal organization. So it was about 4 years ago, I guess. Well, fast forward, election, pandemic, all of that. And the more, I saw stuff coming down the pipe federally, I thought, and got more involved with NPA. I was like, I just don't know that we need to wait in Georgia, because if it's going to happen there, it's going to happen here. Yeah. And so that's why I said, I can do this. I've formed businesses before. I've never formed a nonprofit before, so I didn't know what that was like. But, did some research and said, I'll do it, and talked. Obviously, I didn't do it on my own. I called and talked to these pawnbrokers, and they were all on board if we did it the right way. And that's the thing I would say. Let's don't throw this thing together right at the beginning. Let's be thoughtful about it and get down on paper what your goals, your mission is, and what you want to accomplish, and how you're going to get members, what you're going to tell them that you're doing. So, we were very thoughtful about it in the very beginning. I don't want to be a one-woman show. I'm telling you that now. I know that it seems kind of like with Georgia, maybe I am, but we do have right now 42 members and another 8 promised. Awesome. We started in February, and so it's not a huge organization yet, but
it's something.
But it's something, that's right. Matters. And it's more than what we had before. And we now have a war chest. We didn't have a war chest before. We now do. And so when things come down in Georgia, we can address them where we would have had to just scramble before. Yeah. I think we've got to get ahead of it. Every state needs to get ahead of it, because it is coming. Yeah. If it doesn't come federally now, it may come at the state level first. You got to be ready.
Agreed. Love it. Thank you for spearheading and helping out with that and doing that for the industry. 2 questions for you, Lisa. One is for those listening who look up to you, because there's people who look up to you as a human and as a pawnbroker. What are 2 things that you've done to have success?
2 things that I've done to have success. I would say learning from my mistakes is probably as important as anything. So it's easy to really just get down on yourself and then say, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to try anything again. But what I've tried to do is when I make a mistake, and I learned this very young because I made some real big mistakes when I was young, is hold my head up high and go, that was really stupid and I'm not going to do that again. And I've just kind of tried to live my life that way. And then obviously the most important thing is, I have faith, and my faith drives it should, and I hope it does, but drives every decision I make. So I never want to be someone that doesn't have a kind of a baseline to go from. When I make a decision, I try to have it in line with those values that I have for myself and my family and all of you. All of my friends.
Love it. Last question, Lisa. And before I ask this last question, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for jumping on the show. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for always supporting and sending me messages. Thank you for doing what you do for the pawn industry, right? But what I do want to know is, who is Lisa outside of pawn?
Ooh, outside of pawn. Well, Lisa's a mom, first of all. So I have 2 daughters, and they're 10 years apart. So it's kind of like having 2 only children, but they were together at home for a while, for a hot minute. So and I'm very proud of both of the women that they are. One of them is, and you know this because I say it all the time because I love it, because I'm a Disney fan, and she works for Disney in marketing. So it's exciting. And then the other one she just graduated high school and just started college this week. So I'm back in college. And and basic math is giving me some trouble. I'm just going to tell you.
My daughter just went to 1st grade. I've got to relearn everything.
Everything, yeah. Yep, I've done that twice, so good luck to
Nice.
you there.
Nice.
So yeah,
Love it.
I'm a mom. I love, and as far as things I love to do, I love to travel. That's probably my favorite thing in the world to do. And I love to, and I do genealogy occasionally. So I'm kind of, I don't do a lot of out there exciting. I don't went, skydive or anything, but kind of more cerebral pursuits, I would say. I like to read.
Love it. Awesome. Lisa, thank you so much. For those of you listening, reach out to Lisa. She's always active. She always answers questions. You're awesome, Lisa. I appreciate you. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It was really fun.
For those of you listening, thank you so much. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Share this episode because it's the pawn industry, and this is the podcast for you. And it's also Lisa Little. And join us in the Pawn Leaders community on Facebook. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Pawn Leaders Podcast.